It's just the 6 of us. Okay, here we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Cybersecurity 2023, which the theme of reducing cyber risk through cyber resilience. That's our theme for this event. And we are in the session building effective cybersecurity programs today. And we've got quite a distinguished panel with us to take us through this important topic. And first of all, I will introduce Mr. Edward Millington. Of course, you would have seen Edward before. I'm just going to quickly go back through Edward's bio. He's the founder and managing director of CariSec Global Inc., a Caribbean, which is a Barbados-based company and a principal security consultant, strategically focused on providing security and ICT governance and services to organizations operating in the financial, government, health, manufacturing, private, retail, and energy and utilities sectors. He's an information security ICT telecommunications veteran with more than 2 decades of experience, and he's directed organizations in the achievement of further financial goals through strategic planning and designing and solutions direction. Next up, we have David Primor. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Synomi, and he has spent the first half of his career as a strategic cyber expert and leader on the front lines of the state-level cyber defense. And this is with the Israeli National Cybersecurity Authority. And he believes one of the next big challenges and opportunities in cyber is the SMB space, where we'll be providing optimal protection for companies with a very limited cyber budget, which is very interesting. We just mentioned that, and little to no in-house expertise. So that's David Primor. Then we have Mr. Paul Eversley. He's a risk manager with KPN Consultancy, and he is an ISO 31000 lead risk manager. He's the CEO of KPN Consultancy. This is another Barbadian but Caribbean focused company and a cybersecurity and enterprise risk management consultant that is strategically positioned to lead cyber risk quantification projects and assist clients with making decisions on how best to protect their digital assets and communicate cyber risk exposure operating in the financial, insurance, healthcare, private, retail, and hospitality sectors. Our next guest is Mr. Philip Lewis. He's the managing partner and practice lead of Northpoint Inc. And of course, we would have said that Northpoint Inc. is an ICT consultancy focused on telecommunications and ITC services. And Philip has co-founded the LCI Consulting Inc., a boutique management consultancy firm of which he is the managing director and lead consultant and enterprise and innovation services. And we've got last but not least, Albert Pevluchak. And he's an experienced sales and business manager with a demonstrated history of working in the education and management industry. And he's skilled in sales communication and customer relationship management, sales operations, sales management, and BDM. And he's also ISO 9001 quality management certified. And he's the senior business development manager of the company PECB. So we've got quite a distinguished panel to speak to us this morning on building effective cybersecurity programs. And gentlemen, over to you, Edward.
Yes, thank you very much, Charles. So, good morning, everyone. This major session is going to be talking tremendously on building effective cybersecurity programs. In any business, especially in digital transformation business and business that majority of services are now electronic or digitized, being not only accessed by external entities like customers ourselves and so forth, but you also have the situation of internal users, internal customers that we call it, where there's a possibility that you might have a person, an employee within the business may be able to remove information from your environment and give it to your competitor, etc. So let's get started. It's going to be a very hectic section, a lot to cover. So let us start. Protecting organizations against cyber attacks and reducing the effects is successful is only possible through an effective and efficient information security governance program. This session discussed the importance of such strategic program, its risk-based applications and mature operations, including its awareness and security culture development. This program covers all of the organization, the business, and it helps guide the board or business owner strategic objectives and goals in terms of having its business very viable and in terms of business continuity in the event of a cybersecurity or let's say information security incident. The Information Security Governance Program, what is it? It's a guiding document that strategically aligns the organization, its people, process, and technology to the organization's vision, goals, and objectives through security frameworks, policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines in securing business assets. What it's really saying is that in any business, especially in today's business, we all know that business follows a particular standard, some form of framework, some policies, maybe some form of compliance it needs to adhere to because of the type of industry which it's in. So therefore, to be able to create that security culture, which would have been discussed countless times over between yesterday and today, the importance is really to have a program in place guiding that security culture, being activated, supported, and continue to be championed by the business owner, etc. It's owned and operated, like I just said, by the boards or senior executive, etc. It's going to be risk-based. It sets out standards and policies in developing the security culture of the organization, determines the risk-based operations of security control. Now, why are we saying risk-based? Where do we spend money? How much do we spend? What is our risk? In fact, before we even get to money level, what are our assets? What is critical to us? How easy what threats are posed to them, how vulnerable they are. And you have a whole range within the risk management program as you risk affect your assets, especially in the business continuity or in terms of some compliance, especially if you're looking at data protection. You want whatever you do within the business to be risk-based as much as possible. This helps prioritize where you should focus your attention to and the cost and the likelihood of a type of, especially a type of impact itself. Cyber risk and compliance. The greatest focus on the enterprise security governance and the cybersecurity program and risk model. So in other words, what we're really looking at is the ability to understand cybersecurity and IT risks within the overall enterprise program, in the overall enterprise risk management program, if you want to call it that, which it is. So the effort is that instead of the business operating only looking at financial or maybe operational risks, it has a true understanding of what we can call from a business impact analysis. If one of your assets is lost, in the event that your system have been breached, what data was being lost, what are the ramifications of that? All of that should be incorporated into the overall risk program of the business. And like what Scott stated yesterday in cyber risk for business leaders, they will have a more focus on where risk is going to be and to enhance the security governance program. Risk and compliance are taken as takes a primary role as change enablers. In other words, what we refer to here is as the business tend to change, as it tend to spin up maybe new assets or assets become a little bit more viable and really business enablers to the business, those risks should be well understood. The vulnerabilities of those assets are what we call risk-based vulnerability assessment of the assets should be looked at. The business impact analysis of those assets going offline or end up in someone else's hands, etc. The whole business risk is looked at from an overall or top-down approach. organization decisions.
Edward,
Yes,
if I may just interrupt you a second. I'm not sure if you're meaning to be showing us a presentation, or you just, because if you are, we're not seeing your slides.
Okay, 1 second. See what is going on here.
And so while Edward sorts the slides out, I just want to invite you viewers, if you have any questions for this session, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and we'll cover those questions at the end of the session. Yes, Edward, we can see it. I guess you just need to go to presentation mode. So continue.
Right. So I think what we might need to do is just revert back up a little bit to give persons what I was currently reading in terms of the Information Security Governance Program, which we just discussed. We then talk about cybersecurity risks and compliance, identifying the need to look at their assets, perform risk-based vulnerability, assessments, and also other risk activities to make sure that you, the business itself, you, the business owner, etc., understand cyber risks beyond just sometimes maybe dollars and figures, or a response come to the office saying we need this or we need that. We also we also discuss the resilience portion of the business. For the business to be resilient, you must understand how vulnerable your assets are. You must understand the type of security controls that you can then put in place. You also have to understand that in all of these operations, we are talking about a program that guides all of these policies, regardless if it's managing the firewall, security awareness training for both top level management, even right down to the maids, change management, the procurement of technology, etc., etc., etc. All of these type of programs or processes, etc., is managed by the Information Security Governance Program. Okay, so next we're going to have Paul. Paul is going to discuss cybersecurity. Paul, I believe he has dropped off.
Paul,
no,
you're on mute.
I'm here. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Edward, for your presentation, and good morning to everyone, the current panelists, and also to the past panelists that give their contributions for the last couple of days. I am a risk manager. However, what do people really know about risk manager, what we do? Well, I would say that one of the roles that we do is communicate risk policies and processes for an organization. Now, before I get into the crux of the matter, my slide is up, but how many people really know what enterprise risk management is all about? And definition of enterprise risk management is the process of identifying and understanding the risk that threatens standard business operations. This involves risk prioritization, as well as the planning and preparation necessary for responding to those risks. So for businesses, the risk generally refers to the likelihood of an external force causing damage to corporate assets. Now, I'm going to briefly show a correlation between the cybersecurity, risk, and compliance. And as you can see on this slide, I'm going to talk about the greater focus of ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance practices that center around organizations. The risk in cyber attacks has resulted in a rigorous underwriting process. Now, the previous panel, they were talking about the cost of cybersecurity, and maybe not so in the Caribbean, but mostly in more developed countries, cyber insurance plays a very big role when it comes to mitigating and managing risk. And this would not probably, but cybersecurity is becoming a big factor into the cyber insurance industry. So this has contributed to the maturation of the cyber insurance market and increased expectations from businesses regarding the mitigation of the risk on the part of the insurance carriers. So the users, the employees, and investors are increasingly holding companies accountable for their ESG practices around equality, diversity, and climate change. We move on to the next point. Risk and compliance are taking a primary role as change enablers, and hence that's the focus of this virtual event. Now, without a robust risk management framework that includes environmental, social, and governance resiliency, and strong cyber and compliance programs, this prevents a serious risk to enterprise reputation and the ability to attract and retain the best talent and users and the market position as well. So, for example, organizations and businesses should be focused on ensuring risk management and compliance is central to the ethos, as, for example, superior customer service or, for example, employee well-being. Risk and compliance teams within the organizations are uniquely suited to work cross-functionally with others within the organization. And when we talk about organizational resilience taking center stage, that's been brought up a lot within the last couple of presentations. Now, remember, resilience is not about overcoming a disruption or managing to operate in the face of multiple unexpected events outside of an organization's controls. It means so much more than that. Organizational resilience is about proactive organizational decision-making, and this involves incorporating the separate functions of governance, risk, and compliance alongside other business functions into an organization's objectives. So very important, business leaders should focus their attention on creating smarter, more resilient ecosystems. And very importantly, some people do forget these, third-party partnerships will be important in this too, with leaders placing third-party management at the center of strategic risk and operational planning and modeling. Before I finish off my short presentation, we're going to look at the advantages of including cybersecurity into your enterprise risk management program. Number one, align more closely with the strategic business objectives. Now, cyber risk management programs are often built around meeting compliance standards and regulations, and this can make it difficult to align with the needs of the business. So, by making cybersecurity a business issue, security and business leaders can create an effective ERM or enterprise risk management program that can more accurately serve the greater goals of the organization. Two, focus on the risk profile unique to your organization. Now, where risk management is concerned, one size doesn't fit all. And that's the misconnotation that a lot of people have. It's unique to each organization, and you tweak it according to the needs of your organization. So as I believe, as Steve mentioned in the previous talk, presentation, I should say, with emerging technology designed to increase efficiency, each organization's ERM program should be unique to serve the specific organizational or operational needs. A business's technology needs are not universal, and what works for one organization might not work for the other. So an integrated risk management approach allows organizations to focus on the threats specific to their organization, as opposed to just following the broad industry compliance standards, which I'm sure some organizations do. And last but not least, the increased visibility and the transparency, and a comprehensive visibility and transparency into the enterprise or organization or businesses makes it easier to identify connections between the risk and the impact and assess the threats facing your organization. And yeah, there's a common misconnotation that enterprise risk management and cybersecurity management are not correlated, but there's a big correlation between the two. And I would say that based on what I have just discussed, each organization should tailor their cybersecurity needs along with their enterprise risk management objectives or programs, and it would help smooth out and provide a more efficient running of the organization. And thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. David, I believe you're up next.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here. And thank you, Paul, for excellent actually introduction to what I'm going to say. I'm totally agree with all what you said about the importance of risk management together with cybersecurity and compliance, and how important it is to have cybersecurity risk and not only following compliance. And I want to talk about SMBs and mid-market that not usually having the same resources to actually be able to implement this integrated risk management program and compliance. We all understand that in the recent situation of automatization of attacks and lots of regulation, insurance, which is not so easy as it used to be, organization needs some kind of ability to build the cost-effective cyber protection, and it's not easy. There are so many cyber attacks vectors. There are so many tools to be implemented, so many possibilities, so many processes to be implemented, and not enough budget, not enough human resources. And we all understand that in order to be protected, it's not enough to have a set of tools or best practices. You must have structured cybersecurity. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So we see currently that there is a dramatic increase in mid-market cybersecurity risk, and we see it from cyber attacks perspective. Compliance. I'm coming from the Israeli cyber authority, and we understand that mid-market and SMBs are a national problem, and the way to handle it is to recommend on new frameworks, establish new regulations. So these compliance issues, it's not only from government perspective, it's also from third parties that acquire mid-market to be better secured. And I talked previously about the insurance problem. So all these forces give us the understanding that some change in the way that we protect SMBs and mid-market, which consists with our understanding the importance of risk management, compliance, and cybersecurity within all these parameters. Let's move to the next slide, please. So we believe that every company, not only enterprise, needs this structured security. In big companies, this cyber structured security is given by the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. Not every company has luxury to have this person which takes all his or her experience and build the perfect or the cost-effective plan. We understand that structured security composed of first understanding the goals and the risks of the company. So it's not one size fits all. According to this understanding of the goals and risks, every company should have a strategy, which can be translated to a set of policies that this company should follow. The strategy is based on the assets that company having, the goals, the risks, the gaps. Having the strategy is not enough. So every company should assess the security gaps they're having. They should understand the strategic vulnerabilities. It could be technical vulnerabilities, it could be vulnerabilities from the processes that currently in the company, and understand the compliance processes and the compliance and the regulations. So being able to provide and implement a plan which encapsulates the cyber attack risks and the compliance requirements, and also the compliance risks, together with the requirements of different companies to demonstrate that you are protected, is something which is necessary to build the cost-effective plan. So taking into account that there are hundreds of possible tasks to do, hundreds of processes that you could choose, and there is a limited budget, limited time, and you must take the most cost-effective. So it's a combination of critical things that every company should do, low-hanging fruits, things that it's easy to provide and implement, and some taking into account the constraints in the company. So how to build this cost-effective plan which every company requires. Another thing which I should mention is to be able to engage with the management. So it's extremely important, and it's completely different language between understanding the risks, understanding the technical risk, understanding the technical tools, and then explaining what is your cyber posture, how well you are protected, what is the main risks. So if we could go to the next slide, I would like to introduce Cynomi Virtual CISO platform, which actually provide a way to build this engagement between the company and the board of directors, the CEO, the technical staff, and to be able to understand in high level, based on lots of data and details, where do I stand? What is my cyber posture? Which areas in cybersecurity I'm well protected, and which areas I should put my efforts? Understanding the vulnerabilities, the risks, and be able to prioritize the tasks that you as a company should do. We understand that in order to create such a thing, usually in big companies, it takes time, takes a lot of knowledge. And what we did in Cynomi is putting the knowledge of the best CISOs that we have and continuously collecting knowledge from all the people that presented here. Everybody has his unique understanding and knowledge, and trying to put it in a platform that enables companies to get this knowledge without having these resources very nearby. So we use the data of the company, we understand the risks, we build structured way to understand the gaps and vulnerabilities, and create a very comprehensive tasks and roadmap. So if we go to the next slide, we could see an example of, to the next slide, perfect. So this is an example of a report which has its own importance, because it's really significant to get the feedback and understanding of the management, to understand what are the vulnerabilities, the main vulnerabilities of the company, what are the main gaps, and agree on the topics that the company should focus for the next quarter, for the next year. And building this relationship between the service provider, the technical people, the management, is highly important to be able to handle the risk of the company, and to make the translation between the technical gaps and the business risks of the company, and be able to provide this resilience. Another example is the way that in the next slide, we show an example of how in the platform, we help the companies to implement the tasks in order to be able to implement the strategy of the company. So having the ability to understand the risks, last one, to understand the risks, to understand the gaps, and then to have a very good definition. What are the must-have tasks that the company should do, and help the company to achieve that by sets of best practices from the best CISOs, together with the information that and the knowledge of the service provider on what the company should do. It's the cost-effective way to be able to create a strategy and to implement a plan that implements the strategy. So this is all for me. Maybe I conclude that our vision is to be able to provide this risk management or virtual CISO understanding to all companies, and what was previously a luxury of big enterprise to have a very good cyber plan based on risks and compliance. Now every company should have this capability. Thank you very much.
Right. David, I had a quick question for you. The solution, which is an integrated approach provided through a portal, allows the business to not only capture a glimpse or maybe fully its IT risk, but also cybersecurity risk, and present that output, not only for the board and so forth, but also to senior executive management who, like the CIO and so forth, have close to direct visibility into some key areas. Can you tell us a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about how that is then visualized within this dashboard? You have a posture, you have an attack view, and you have the analysis, and you also have something called a score profile. The board can sit down and say, or around the table say, look, we have some deficiencies. You know, if we go back a little bit more to this screen here, we have some deficiencies in maybe in awareness. We're not doing enough in the awareness, or at least at the email level, et cetera, et cetera. How is this captured, and can you arrange it in a way that a board member could say, you know what, there's not enough being done because my score, my posture is at this level?
Yeah. So in the process of collecting the data, we have a combination of understanding the cyber posture from conversations with the different roles in the company in a set of questionnaires, and also the ability to collect data from the company itself. Having the objective data and subjective data, we are able to present the different gaps and the posture of the company. So we present in the dashboard information that can be used by CIOs or by CEOs to understand what are the gaps and what are the cyber domains that needs more attention. So for example, in this radar graph that we see in the left, there are places in which we understand that the company is doing well, and there are cyber domains that lack of processes or tools. It's very easy to use this radar graph in order to demonstrate the areas which needs more attention. In Synomy report, we try to provide this view to this information in additional view, like a heat map. So it's very clear to understand for the CIO or any other executive where to focus, where to put the next dollar in order to be better protected. So this is from the executive point of view. From more tactical point of view, when you want to implement the tasks in order to increase the posture, in order to handle the risks, in order to be able to handle this gap in this cyber domain, we are providing the knowledge of the CISOs in order to help them to implement the IT people or the security people to implement the actual tasks in an effective way. Another thing which is really important is the prioritization. We understand that we cannot do everything, and the ability for being able to, the product is doing it automatically, to take into account many parameters and suggest that these 10 things are the most critical things. It's very helpful to the CIO, and it's also very helpful to the technical people to understand what is the most critical ones. Of course, there are some other constraints or the low-hanging fruits that the CIO or other people in the company would like to implement first, and we give them the ability to decide what are the critical tasks that should be done and what are the other tasks that maybe it's more easy to be implemented and raising the cyber posture of the company.
That's very good, because we know extending from what we would have learned from the very first session yesterday, cyber risk for business leaders, a more actionable item to what it can look like in terms of performing those assessments, building the information security governance program that tends to be a little bit more strategic. As businesses are now trying to introduce such program, an assessment is needed. A program is needed, and this can help guide us to some of the policies that may need to be, a high priority to be effective than others itself. So, David, again, thank you very much. I'm not quite sure if the moderator has any questions for you. I will proceed.
Go ahead, Edward. I have no questions at this point.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, David. Now, when we look at any assessment, and we're looking at overall whole of the business itself, one asks the question, how mature we are. The next question, a similar question, is how good we are. Do we have a very good posture? Do we have everything to do what we need to do? And this is the question that normally goes out to the IT team. And they are doing as much as they possibly can. And as Steve would have mentioned just a little bit before, and also Paul from North Point, excuse me, this is asking questions to the IT team is not really the best. Asking to the risk team might be a lot better, but if the risk team does not have that full visibility into this environment, then having a true posture of your cybersecurity is going to be very vague, and you will get that answer yes until you have a breach, compromise, or system being done. So what we are looking at here is the capability, cybersecurity capability maturity model, and it goes from a level of 1 right up to a level of 5. 4 and 5 is where you want to be in some areas. And obviously I can almost guarantee you in many businesses, some businesses will say, well, we have a basic antivirus. You might say we have Symantec, we have McAfee. But then you see stuff like that there, normal antivirus, that's extremely low. With today's current cyber threats, any pen tester, any person that operating at this level say to you is, we can easily compromise a machine so easily, it'd be very amazing. And what I mean by that, you can easily just take a piece of malware, just add one word, repackage it, and there's no signature for it. So let's just review it quickly. The cybersecurity capability maturity model provides the visualization of the organization maturity level, assessing its governance, people, process, and technology against frameworks, standards, or security culture needs. It's useful in translating and communicating security postures to you, the board, business owners, etc. It provides an overview of the organization's cyber resilient capacity. In other words, if you're down in level 1 or maybe 2, the ability to survive an attack can highlight that, for instance, the network may be very flat. What we mean by that there, if we stand in one place and we initiate an attack, we can almost guarantee it spreads through the organizations, even into other sites. So the higher your level, which let's say optimized, it means then that you can reduce what we call the attack surface. We reduce how far this attack can spread through the organization, thereby allowing you to still continue to operate and run. It also helps boards and senior executives in the creation of the program strategies for achieving organization security goals. That implies that if you want to achieve a certain maturity in some particular areas, let's say you want to have high resilience in case of an attack, let's say possibly with a service that you're providing, and you understand how this service operates within your infrastructure, you definitely know that to attain a high level, let's say in the manage or optimized area, you're going to have a number of possibly supporting resources in that area. What I mean by that, it doesn't have to be always technology. Yes, it could be a firewall, it could be an antivirus, a DLP solution, etc. But what we can also talk about is the necessary policies that are created, at the governance level. Process training, people to be trained within protecting those processes, understanding processes within the organization, understanding even cybersecurity awareness training as that culture grows within the company itself. So when you look at the ability to identify, protect, detect, and respond, and in some cases, what we call recover, which is not the best statement as Steve was mentioned, you want to be able to identify a threat very early in the game. And you can't do that there if you have limited tools. You would have also heard from Mr. Neil Hines yesterday, highlighting the need in case you want to prosecute maybe someone within the business that, let's say, steal data or encourage an attack within the organization, because hackers are now paying persons to provide entry into organization, especially when it's very difficult. The idea is to be able to identify. You must have logging. You must have many things going on within the organization. So again, this is set from policy from up top, highlighting based on your risk, the level of identification of a threat within your environment. And then you look at the ability to protect. What are some of the things that you can use to protect your organization? And again, all of these talk about the security culture that is needed to provide security direction in the business itself. So to be able to defend against attacks, or respond. So you take, let's say, the protect, detect, and respond. Is then very critical to make sure that all of these domains of operations within security domains that David would have mentioned just now, you want to be operating as close as possible to be optimized, using AI within the infrastructure. You being at maybe you, the business owner, the board member or executive, etc., being able to have those meetings to identify and say, okay, then how are we identifying strange behaviors within our organization? The CEO may be traveling, but he may not be in Australia, maybe in Canada, where we have the CEO logging in from this particular area. Just recently this morning, a couple was scanned out of a lot of money, $21,000, and not here in Barbados. And what happened is that a voice came on the phone sounding like their son. It was an AI generated voice. So the more ability you have to identify threats within the environment, the greater ability for you to protect that environment. And in the sense of being able to respond and even recover, having the necessary processes in place. And then say technology, having the necessary processes in place, or what we can call security controls, to recover to respond and recover is going to be very critical in terms of your cyber resilience or in whole the resilience of the business itself. You don't want to be a situation like a hospitals around the world are being hit, where there's a situation where you are not able to serve patients and they have to be transferred from one hospital to the next because systems are down. You don't want to be a bank or a financial institution find themselves in a situation where, you know, their ATMs are down, machines are down, persons can't able to come in and perform their business. So it's very important that if, depending on where you are within the system, what you feel comfortable with in terms of visualizing your security culture needs and your security direction, this is one of the possible profiles you can look at. And we have these type of maturity models in risks, in project management, and they're all over the place. But it gives you something that quick qualitative approach to your business. Thank you. Any questions that we may have, Charles, before we move off to Philip?
No. I don't have any questions at this particular. I don't see any questions from the panel, from the attendees as well. So you can just go forward to Philip.
Right. Paul, all over to you. Sorry, not Paul. Philip, sorry.
Sure, thank you. And I have a few slides here, so I'll be looking to share my screen, if that's okay. Okay, and good morning, everyone. And thanks to the panel for basically teeing up a lot of what I'm going to speak about today, because they've gone through a lot of the very effective, good tools and strategies that should be employed to build an effective, cybersecurity defense. But what I'm looking at here is good governance, and how does the board and the senior leadership team ensure that the right thing is being done? Because as we know, security can't just be the domain of the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, or the IT team. It is across the business that you must have a security culture, that you must be aware to protect yourself. So we're going to look a bit more about what's the problem, and I'm going to provide a bit of a local context. I'm a counsel on the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and would have conducted a small poll across some of our membership. So we'll get an idea around what's the problem with governance when we talk about cybersecurity, and then we'll look at some board principles and training, and talk about culture, security culture, and change management. So as we look at the next slide, as the saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but in this case, we have to. A bit of the problem is that many people in leadership, many people that sit on the board are people that have already matured within their professional lives, within their space. And cybersecurity is something that's very new to them. And it's not something that they're aware of or knowledgeable about. And they need to be. So awareness is a challenge. But it's something that I think within the local context, the issue at QEH, the issue with City of Bridgetown, that is driving the level of awareness that the boards, the leadership team, that they need to do something, but then they ask what to do. And they're not readily aware of how big a problem is it really? To what extent will it really impact their business? And many business leaders still are of the view, the wrongful view of, I'm too small. I'm a small business, a small company. Why would somebody want to hit me out of the thousands and millions of other small businesses out there? And likewise of the view of, let IT deal with it. And of course, I don't have budget for that, or very little budget for that. So those are some of the perspectives of business leaders out there, people that sit on the board, that present obstacles to us being able to implement these strategies for combating cybersecurity. What we also heard earlier today is about the economics of cybersecurity, and we heard how cheap it is for people to to attempt to do nefarious activities and for bad actors to come into play. So it doesn't cost them a lot of money, and therefore they don't need to be asking for millions of dollars. So that's the problem with anybody thinking I'm too small. Somebody doesn't have to come and ask for $1 million. They can just be asking for $500, $5,000. But your entire business is put at risk for that. And I'm sure that your business is worth more than $500 or $5,000. So you need to look at the economics of it and recognize that, no, you're not too small, and recognize that you can be targeted. And many of these small businesses are seeing now that they are targeted and they are suffering the consequences. So what has been done? Because this is a problem that's faced globally, whether you're a large corporate enterprise or you're a small, medium business, what can become? So some academic institutions, as well as the Internet Security Alliance, National Association of Corporate Directors, the World Economic Forum, and PricewaterhouseCoopers have come together and formed one model. There are many others, but formed one model or framework of principles for board governance of cyber risk. And you'll see there are 6 principles to ensure cyber resilient organizations. And as you go around the model, you'll see we speak to cybersecurity is a strategic business enabler, understand the economic drivers and impact of cyber risk, align cyber risk management with business needs. So these principles are not technical principles, and they're not principles that speak to the IT department. They are strategic principles that speak to the business and ensure the alignment of the business goals and needs with the security and the risk management that's required. And I want to look at one specific principles because we're here talking about what can the board do, what do the senior leadership team need to do. And of course, this is the wider senior leadership team. Typically, the CISO gets it. They know what they want, but they have to now convince the CEO and convince the other members of the executive team, convince the board that this is worthwhile. So one of the very important principles is incorporate cybersecurity expertise into board governance. Now, what does this mean? It means increasing the board's base knowledge. So all the directors that sit on the board, increasing their base knowledge on cyber risk and security via training. I said it earlier that this morning, you know, some people that sit on boards or leadership teams, senior managers and so on, believe that training is not for them. That's definitely not the case. The rate of pace of change in the environment that we have today is too fast for people to think that they don't need to keep up with it. We all do. Continuous learning. And the board and the leadership team need to take this on, and they need to make themselves aware of cybersecurity and the cyber risks that are out there. The board should employ independent advisors and assessors. It's one thing to rely on your IT team, but how do you know if your IT team are doing what they should be doing? So you need to have independent people to come and advise you and perform those assessments like that change maturity model that Edward would have just shown, and walk that through you and see the areas that your IT team might have gaps in. You need to conduct periodic audits, reviews, and ensure that you have updates on trends. What's happening? What are the threats that are seen out there? Who is being hit? Those are some of the things that you need to keep yourself abreast of as a board member or as a member of the senior leadership team. And the board needs to ensure that the senior leadership team is doing all of this as well for themselves. It's not good enough for the chief HR officer, chief marketing officer to say, well, look, that stuff is IT, you know, so they'll deal with that. That's not the world that we live in anymore. The entire leadership team need to be aware of the issues as well as how to deal with those issues. The other thing that we need to look at is, well, what is the training that is then available to boards? So what I've shown here is just 4 of the board training academies that are out there. The Directors College is a US-based one. The Institute of Directors is a UK-based one. And the other 2, Caribbean Governance Training Institute and Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute, as their name suggests, are based and focused in the Caribbean. And these institutions all provide board training, whether it's just on specific courses like corporate secretary and so on, or up to chartered level type training. And I just did a quick review of their websites to see if either of these institutions mentioned cybersecurity or cyber risk within their board training. And the Directors College did. They have clarified key questions directors can ask about risk. So this is what they'll train about: enterprise risk management and cybersecurity in the board's oversight role. The other institutions didn't make mention of cybersecurity specifically. They did make mention of risk management. And of course, it very well may be part of their programs, just not on their website. The point being, though, is that these institutions are seeing risk management as something that's key to any board and to any board training. And cybersecurity is definitely becoming part of that. So some of the questions that would have to be asked by the board of the leadership team are, do you have plans in place, your incident response plan to deal with any type of cyber incident? What is your business continuity plan? What is your disaster recovery plan? And of course, your overall risk management plan, which would include your business impact analysis and so on. Some of these were shown in the webinar yesterday, so anybody that wants to review those can do so. I think the other thing to be aware of is a lot of training is available and out there for any type of manager, whether you're in HR or finance or marketing, to learn about cybersecurity at the level that you're at. So we all know most managers, there's of course finance for non-finance managers. Well, likewise, there are courses for cybersecurity that are available for those managers that just need to know to ensure that they're playing their part as far as security is concerned. Likewise, most managers know that they have to have the right behaviors, have the right soft skills to conduct talent management, talent development. Those used to be HR only type skills, and you would just say, well, let HR deal with that. And we know nowadays that's not the case. HR might set the policy, but every manager has a responsibility to then effect that policy and make sure that their staff are following and doing the right thing. So the same theory holds when it comes to cybersecurity. The cybersecurity team would be responsible for setting policy, but every manager, every leader, and members of the board have the responsibility for making sure that that policy is followed and adhered to. So how do we then do that? Because we're talking about changing people's behaviors and changing the culture, possibly changing the culture of the organization to become a security conscious organization by having a security culture. So if you look at the diagram, you can see that there are 3 main elements: motivation, ability, and nudge. And under motivation, you have corporate values. And we all understand what corporate values are. The challenge here is, what if those corporate values are not lived by the organization? And what happens when leadership don't set the example and live up to those corporate values? Well, then that's a real problem. And the same thing holds in a security culture. Leadership set the tone at the top. So they have to set the example of, well, how are we going to make sure that we follow all the security protocols and policies, and that we do all the right thing. Also note the security awareness, which we spoke about earlier, as well as communication. A lot of people think communication is, well, let's put it all in an email, let's put the policy and just send that out once and then it's done, tick the box. And I think we all know now that's not effective communication. Communication has to hit people's registers. It has to be repetitive. You have to test and make sure that the message has been received and then that there's follow-up behind that. So there's a lot to ensuring that you have a security culture. And that means bringing about change in human behavior. And that's easier said than done. And so my last slide speaks about that change that we need to happen. And what's the end goal? Because cybersecurity training is just one part of the story. It's sort of the more immediate and urgent part because it's the part that can really impact the business. It can cause the business tremendous loss of money and so on. But after the cybersecurity training, we mentioned, well, you've got to change your organization. You've got to develop a security culture to try and prevent yourself from being hit in the first place. And of course, this is continuous. This isn't, well, let's try and do the right things today or this month. For your business, you need to have that security culture to ensure that into the future, you are continuously safe. Think about it. Staff come and go. Members of your leadership team come and go. Board members come and go. So how are you ensuring that that culture remains and that security culture is always practiced, regardless of the movement of people? And this is where change management comes into it. This is change management principles are sort of now being adopted and seeing the benefit of change management principles that allow you to manage how you impact our behaviors at the leadership team, at the board level, and for all staff. And where is this going and why do you need to do that? Because everyone needs to adopt a digital mindset as we're all on a digital transformation journey. And what does that mean? Edward had mentioned artificial intelligence a bit earlier. You know, as we're on this journey, it's only going to get more complicated. And we have to be prepared for that. So we've got to follow through on the cybersecurity training, the security culture change, embedding principles of change management because things are getting more and more complex. Everyone, the board, leadership team, having a digital mindset, always asking yourself for any type of new thing you're doing. Sure, we want the benefits of increased productivity or new services, and all of this is within a digital context. But what are the costs? What are the risks? We can't just pretend that those don't exist either. We have to be mindful and take those into account. And at the end of the day, the true value to the organization is ensuring that we are conducting that digital transformation across the board. And boards and the leadership team have to set that example. They have to lead from the top in doing that. Otherwise, it's not going to be taken seriously. So that's all I have to say today. And I know we've gone over time a little bit. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. Albert, we're over to you now on your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so just let me share that. All right, so do you see my presentation, guys? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so first of all, just let me introduce myself. So I'm the Senior Business Development Manager for North America with PCB, and I have the pleasure to be a part of the cybersecurity event organized by our partner CariSec Global, and I seize the opportunity to salute you all. So for all those that are not aware, I mean, what the PCB stands for, that's for the Professional Evaluation Certification Board. And we are a certification body that provides training and certification services for professionals in various fields, including information security, cybersecurity, management system, and others. And for all these, we offer professional certifications. So the PCB is accredited by the International Accreditation Service, IAS, and is recognized by international organizations such as International Organization for Standardization, ISO, and the International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC. So I'm not just going to talk about the technical aspects or implementing, or in particular, since like all of the previous speakers, they have comprehensively covered those aspects. But
so Albert, before you move, you just need to start your slideshow so we can see your slides much better. We're seeing you in preparation mode. We need to go into presentation mode.
Okay, just I'm trying to see. I working here.
That's it.
Okay.
So you're still showing presentation mode. So you probably might just need to come out and start it again and take off the presenter's view.
Sorry, but I don't know what's wrong. Is it fine now?
No, it's still the same way. Let's go back in.
I apologize.
Right under the monitor, automatic, there's presenter view on. Just click the presenter view. Just go up a little bit more. It's right to your left under the monitor. It says presenter, use presenter mode right under monitor.
Okay.
Now if you go back to the top,
Okay.
where it says under Nitro Pro 7, right under that you'll see the tab monitor, and then right on that you'll see use presenter view.
Right here.
No, come across to the right. Come across to almost where it says view. There's slideshow, there's review, there's view, and then there's Nitro Pro 7.
Hold on. I'm sorry. This.
Okay, maybe you just.
All right,
there.
let's continue then.
Okay, good. Maybe interesting, I could just share my screen and he could just continue, right?
Okay, so you have, yes.
Let me just share my screen.
Okay, just let me know when I.
So while you're getting
Okay, I changed it, yeah. Okay, let me see. And okay. Right, go ahead.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so
Go ahead.
All right. So as I said, I'm not going to talk about the technical aspects of implementing or in particular integrated management systems, as most of you comprehensively covered all those aspects. So as you can see, what the PCB, I mean, for those are the services that we offer. So the PCB delivers topmost innovative training courses through its network of experts in variety of fields. So besides PCB expertise is in multiple fields with a special emphasis on information security and resilience. So the main training courses or the platforms are the information security, cybersecurity, continuity, resilience, and recovery, and also for the GRC, privacy, and digital transformation. We have the courses on governance, risk, and compliance, privacy and data protection, digital and transformation. So as we all know that the knowledge is changing rapidly in the area of information security, risk management, and cybersecurity, as practices change and as the threats faced by the organization change, and also in addition, the COVID pandemic station has changed organizational practices by generalizing remote working, outsourcing or use of subcontractors by companies for IT governance. It has also affected training practices by giving a more important part to remote training, as well as affect management systems audit, as there has been an increased practice of remote audits. So all those new threats and new corporate practices are addressed by new ISO standards releases, which is ISO 27001 new release and ISO 27005 risk management new release, as well as the best trainings on ISO standards that we have here at the PCB. So furthermore, in the field of information security, our network professionals are usually PCB ISO 27001 lead implementer certified, which is the best training among ISO 27001 training courses of any certification body in this category. So this training is generally associated with ISO 27032 cybersecurity management. And given the increase in cyber attacks during the pandemic, remote working, and the digitalization of services, certified lead ethical hacker also certification has become a must-have, as companies must now regularly test for possible weaknesses in their system and controls in place to prevent intrusions. So as the digitalization has been accelerated by the pandemic and the new working practices, PCB has developed 3 new training certification courses for professionals in this field. So these courses also contain a risk management and a cybersecurity component. So those are the lead cloud security manager to ensure the preservation, integrity, backup, and confidentiality of data. Digital transformation officer, so that's leading the change towards the digitalization of services. And the lead crisis manager is also contains a good part of information security, cybersecurity, and risk management, as these aspects have taken a dominant part in the functioning of the companies. So why the certification is important? The certification is important, as you can see, so it's for several reasons. So that's for the employers, as they show that the individual has the right skill set. For individuals, it shows that the person has the dedication in specialization, demonstrates competence, enhances career opportunities, keeps knowledge up to date, fresh skills, sets standards, create a competitive edge by opening new opportunities. Globally, they will get globally recognized certificate by PCB, of course, through our partner CariSec Global. Increase the opportunity to perform a higher level in your current role, and so on. So why the cybersecurity is important for you? So becoming a certified on ISO 27032 cybersecurity management that enables you to protect the organization data and privacy from the cyber threats, strengthen your skills in the establishment and maintenance of a cybersecurity program, develop best practices to managing cybersecurity policies, improve the security system of organizations and its business continuity, build confidence to stakeholders for your security measures, respond and recover faster in the event of the incident. So the ISO 27032 standard is essential for all businesses to utilize. And the risk of security threats is increasing on a daily basis as we rely more on the cyberspace. However, the ISO 2732 standard provides guidelines regarding the protection and long-term sustainability of business processes. In addition, it equips individuals with the ability to develop a policy framework on which it identifies the processes that are most vulnerable to cyber attacks, and that must be considered in order to ensure that businesses and clients will not be at risk. Also, ISO 27032 cybersecurity training provides a real-world solution to individuals in protecting their privacy and organization data from phishing scams, cyber attacks, hacking, data breaches, spyware, espionage, sabotage, and other cyber threats. So being certified with ISO 2732 will demonstrate to your clients and stakeholders that you can manage and provide solutions to their cybersecurity issues. So the frequency of cyber attacks has growing during the last few years, and hearing news of big data breaches is becoming very common. So in order to protect and secure their cyberspace, organizations must take preventive and safety measures. So cybersecurity is considered to be in the top 5 ranked risk of 2023. So besides criminals and the cyber attacks themselves, a top threat of cybersecurity is considered to be the negligence of employees who do not follow security guidelines and are not familiar with cybersecurity and its importance. So also for the last slide is like this recognition of our efforts to deliver excellent services and meet client demands is a testament of our success as a team. So Cybersecurity Excellence Awards have recognized our efforts for the 5th year running, and I'm delighted to share this achievement with you all. So this was all from my side, and I really appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Albert. And unfortunately, we are over our time for this session. Unfortunately, we don't have a chance to pose a whole lot of questions, but nonetheless, we hope that the information shared on building your effective cybersecurity program was sufficient at least to give you a starting point. Of course, CariSec is always available to answer any questions, and so you'll have the contact information. If you need further guidance, you can always contact CariSec Global, and Edward and his team will be very willing to provide any additional information that you need on the subject. But gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for being here on this session. And again, we look forward to seeing you at some point in time again in the future. And for those of you who are with us, we are going to move directly into our next session. So I invite you to join us in our next session, which is on data risk management. So good evening, everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you.